Yes guys, welcome back to another video. Welcome to the George Benson football channel. Today, I thought I'd do a little roundup of the latest Chelsea news. We've got some interesting stories at very interesting times in the Premier League right now. Chelsea are one of the clubs reportedly interested in Newcastle's Bruno Guimaraes. Brilliant player. He's had a great start to the season, as have Newcastle, and we're going to discuss that a little bit today. But as you guys know, I'm a regular guest on the Last Man Standing show with Bet Victor, and we were discussing Newcastle this week. I'm going to leave a link to the episode in the description. Lee Judges had something to say, and I'm kind of inclined to agree with him.
Newcastle was just as consistent, just as good as any other team. And one thing about Newcastle, which is a worry, is that they're going under the radar. There's no expectations with them. I think with Man United, Chelsea, Arsenal, Tottenham, there is an expectation, and with that comes pressure.
As I said, go check the link in the description, but the consistency of Newcastle is why I want to lead today's Chelsea news video with the Bruno Guimaraes story. Do you guys actually think that we can talk about the word consistent with Newcastle United after 11 games of the season? I think they've played 12. Chelsea have played 11. We win that game in hand. We go above them in the Premier League table. But with Liverpool sinking, doing well in the Champions League, but can't pick up any kind of consistent form in the Prem, Newcastle are ticking. It's slowly ticking, but it's actually happening a lot quicker than I would have believed. Now, the reason I think Chelsea will be interested in actually going for Bruno Guimaraes is because A, it's been pretty clear this season that with the injuries to Kovacic playing through an injury, Jorginho, who we're going to talk about in this video with new contracts, uncertainties and whatever, Kante out for 4 months. Chelsea need to be looking to strengthen the midfield. Now, the names that have been touted for a long time, Jude Bellingham, we know how good he is. Declan Rice is playing phenomenally right now for West Ham. And obviously Chelsea have been long-term admirers of Declan Rice. We know exactly what those two players have to offer, but we are looking at around £100 million. The reason I think it's smart for Chelsea to go for Guimaraes is not only because it looks as though we're going to be competing with Newcastle far sooner for Champions League places, and who knows, maybe even more in the near future. So Chelsea going in for Guimaraes in January could, if we can tempt him away, get us a solid midfielder for the second half of the season who is already killing it in the Prem, but it also tests the resolve of where Newcastle are. If Chelsea can be the club that come in for Bruno Guimaraes, we're obviously going to offer him big money, but we know there's big money at Newcastle. The Champions League football and the elevated status that Chelsea have is totally different to the risk for a top player being at Newcastle. The risk is that there is a plan there and there is a goal to get Champions League football to be competing for titles. But Bruno Guimaraes is already at that top level. So does he want to risk remaining at Newcastle and then missing out? And then it comes the summer and you're like, well, how many seasons are we going to be close but not quite there? The sooner Chelsea go in for a player like Bruno, the sooner we get to see just how seriously these Newcastle players are taking this project. Newcastle have obviously said that there's no way they're going to be accepting any kind of bid for Bruno Guimaraes in January. I think Chelsea are probably one of the only clubs that would realistically go for the player in January, but I personally think he's brilliant. I am worried about Newcastle this season. I do think, as much as I don't necessarily agree fully, that they are more consistent. I think it's too early in the season. They've had a good start to the season. Yes, they've got the best defence in the league, but really, is it too... It's too soon to say that they're the most consistent. So I would love Chelsea to go for Bruno. I think it's very unrealistic because I do think Newcastle will reject the bids. It would all be about, does the player say, yes, I really want to go? Would Chelsea be willing to offer probably double what Newcastle paid him, probably like 70, 80 million? That might get Newcastle thinking if the player wants to go. Just don't think that this one is going to happen. We move into the next story. Reece James, obviously it looks as though Reece is going to miss the World Cup, which is a disaster on all fronts. I made a very bold claim that Reece James would score in a World Cup final and lift the trophy with England. And it looks as though now he's probably not even going to feature at all. which, again, as a Chelsea fan, you don't want to rush a player back, but then it's the World Cup. So, of course, England want their best players. I'm an England fan as well as a Chelsea fan, so I want to see the best player in the England squad, Reece James, in the team. But injuries mean Chelsea are forced to look at backup. Denzel Dumfries from Inter Milan is the player we're looking at. I think in January, you very rarely see many transfers in January. But as the World Cup gets closer, during the World Cup as well, whenever there's a World Cup, there are names that come out of the hat when it comes to potential signings for potential clubs. So Chelsea do need backup in that position. We can't buy Raheem Sterling and just use him at right wing back because we don't really have competent players in that position. If Reece is going to be injured and out until after the World Cup, and he's been picking up injuries a lot, so we can't consistently say after this injury, Reece is back, Chelsea are good. Aspi likes to be used a bit more in a centre-back role under Potter so far, but it doesn't seem as though with centre-back injuries, Potter thinks he's got enough options. So Denzel Dumfries from Inter Milan is the man we're looking at. I think it would be a good signing. Probably wouldn't be an astronomical fee, and we certainly need backup in that position. I think Chelsea are much more suited to using Ruben in the middle and playing players out of positions when it comes to the end of the season, and let's say we don't get top four. Let's say we don't win a trophy. These are some of the easiest ways that we can be like, look, we need a stronger squad. We should have invested more. We shouldn't have gone so heavily for this position. We should have anticipated this and gone for backup all over the field. That's how City built their success. Players, multiple players in various positions so that when one's injured, there's another ready-made in the system straight to come in. Denzel Dumfries on the radar. We move into discussing Jorginho. Now again, Jorginho loves the club, loves London. Financially, will he sign a new deal? And is it a good idea for Chelsea to give Jorginho a new contract? As we talk more about players like Bruno Guimaraes, when we keep seeing the brilliance of Jude Bellingham, the brilliance of Declan Rice, players who this summer coming up, I do not see Bellingham staying at Dortmund. I don't see Declan Rice staying at West Ham. I think both players will leave this summer. And I think you've got clubs like Man United, City might be in there, but they've already got a stacked middle. You've also got Liverpool, who will certainly have to invest in the squad this summer, upcoming summer at least, because, well, look at them. At the moment, they're below Newcastle. They're below Chelsea. They're below many teams in the top half of the table, not even in the race, some are saying, at this moment in time. So Chelsea have got to be careful with prioritising the contracts of players. And as much as Jorginho obviously scored the other day, and I think he's actually made a good start to the season overall, I would always say, preferentially for myself, I'd rather give Kante a new contract than Jorginho, because Jorginho is always going to have this flirt back going to Italy again. He's Italian clubs love him, all of the top Italian clubs want him. So at the moment, we're talking finance. And when we're talking about finance, is Jorginho the player that we give a new contract to for bigger money than he's currently on? I want to know you guys' thoughts on that in the comments down below. The next story, Kai Havertz scored a wonder goal in the week. And in the 6 Things We Learnt video, I said, that is the kind of goal and moment from Havertz that reminds us just how good this man can be. Yes, we have not seen him kick on since that Champions League final goal. Yes, he has started this season, in my opinion, poorly. I would like to believe that that goal is the moment that kick-starts Kai Havertz again at Chelsea. I know that when you score one worldy finish and it wins us the game and qualifies us for the knockout rounds of the competition, but Kai Havertz was wanted by Bayern Munich. Chelsea said no. I think by the end of this season, this is my prediction, I would love Kai Havertz to absolutely become the world-class player that we all know he can absolutely be, and that be at Chelsea Football Club. But there is always going to be interest from Bayern. I think Havertz is a name where until he's like 25, 26, we're still going to be looking at fulfillment of potential. The more he continues to shine for Germany, the more interest there will be from big clubs. Chelsea spent big on Havertz. So I do think we should keep an eye on this one. I really think that Chelsea will keep Havertz, and I do believe he is going to become the world-class player consistently. Common theme throughout this video, the word consistent, but it is always a topic. I think Havertz will come good. There's more talk about more signings, and we're still going strong. Chelsea are unbeaten. We've got Premier League football this weekend. away at Brighton. Match preview will be out for you guys early in the morning. As I said at the beginning, check out the Last Man Standing episode. I was involved this week in the comments down below or the description down below. Come on, you Blues.